tell you a little bit about what's going on today. We decided to come out this morning. We had a big east wind yesterday, pumping into the lake. The water was a little stained a couple of days ago. As you can see, the water has cleaned up a lot since the last 2 days with the east wind. Pumped up a little bit of salt water, salinity rose up, so we decided to come out on the trestle today. We had been checking it in the previous days, but it was only 1 or 2, and everybody knows that the trestle can change overnight. We got probably about 20 fish in the box right now. We started at daylight this morning, so we had, high pressure moved in, sunlight came out. This is the first falling tide we've had in the lake in about a week. So we decided, so the conditions have changed dramatically with the falling tide, the water cleaning up, and the sun popping out. So we decided to make a drift on the trestle. Now the fish we're catching has been typical 14, 15-inch fish, which is a little typical around this time of the year. It should be a little bit better, a better breed of fish, but it's a good thing that the fish are starting to show up. So let's see if we can put a few more in the box and we'll get back to it. Better fish? Yeah, he was a little closer. So he came right off of the pile. Another one for the box. Not your 2.5 pounders that we're normally catching this time of the year, but I'm confident in the coming weeks they are coming. But nonetheless, this is a solid fish. Beautiful fillet. This fish is going to make. I bet he woke up this morning not knowing he's going to be somebody's lunch. One more thing we need to talk about when fishing the bridges. All right, rule of thumb: if you're not getting a bite on the bridge and it's tight, you're fishing tight to the pilings, back your boat off a good 10 or 15 yards. A lot of times when the current tends to pick up, they'll back off the bridge and get a little farther out, a little farther off from the bridge, and the reason being is because in cooler water they try to exert as less energy as they can. So they're going to kind of get out of the current and just wait for the bait to come to them. They don't want to burn all that energy. That's the reason they're here, is to try to stock up and get fat before the winter. So if you're not catching them right on the piling, as you can see, we moved off the bridge, probably a good 15, 20 yards off the bridge, and that bite's coming between the bridge and then the halfway mark, so about 10 yards off the bridge. So always keep that in mind. If you make a drift in there and you're catching 1 or 2 and it slows down, back off the bridge a good 10, 20 yards, and generally what will happen is that bite will come in between the boat and the bridge, right in between. He can do it. He can fish it. He can fish it. All right, one more thing to cover. When we started out this morning, if you haven't been on the lake in a while, and most of us haven't, because in the summertime the lake kind of gets dead. So once you haven't been out here in a while and you're trying to figure out where you should start, one thing you should always pay attention to is the life, or any type of wildlife, or Mother Nature is going to tell you where everything's at. This morning we started out this morning, hadn't been on the bridge in a while. When we got here this morning, the sun broke up, we saw a bunch of birds diving. So we hurried up and got to a section where the birds were actually working, meaning if the birds are working in that area, fish are pushing the bait up, bait's coming through that section of the bridge. And obviously we getting on a good bite of fish. So something you want to pay attention to if you haven't been out on the lake in a while is Mother Nature, the birds. The birds are going to tell you where the fish are, because the fish now are chasing bait, pushing bait up, and the birds are hovering above it, trying to ambush that bait. So if you haven't been out here in a while, look for the birds. If you see the birds working, and it doesn't have to necessarily be seagulls, it could be the little white terns. Anything that's going to give away that there may be bait in the area, loons also. If you see those in a particular area, they're not there for nothing. That means the bait's there, and if the bait's there, the fish are going to be there. Another solid fish for the box. A little bit better fish. As I mentioned earlier, the conditions have changed. First falling tide we've had in about a week in the lake. Everything's been an incoming tide or little or no tide. What happens is this time it's November. It's going into the second week, actually the first week of November. I'm sorry, first week of November. And normally during the first week of November, we have a lot cooler weather. The fronts are coming more frequently, and we're the bait fish, as far as the shrimp and the fin fish, are starting to try to leave the lake. We haven't had the big cold fronts that we normally would have. PD has one on now. We haven't had the big cold fronts that we would normally have this time of the year. What we've been experiencing is, maybe a day or two of cold fronts, and then it gets back warm. So what we need to happen is we need the big cold fronts to come through and start pushing the bait from the northern part of the lake, and push it more towards this way so we can get those fish jammed up on the bridges. But this is the first day that we've came out and starting to put a lot of fish in the box, so that is a great sign. So in the weeks to come, with the frequent fronts that's going to come, the water temperature is going to get a little bit lower. It's going to force that shrimp, that white shrimp, and them thin fish to start getting out of the lake, and the fin fish to start congregating to the pilings on the bridges, on the Twin Span Causeway, and the trussels, and you're going to start seeing a bigger breed of fish moving in. But once again, this is a solid fish, beautiful fish, and it's probably only going to get better from here. We're using, matrix shad. I'm using a pink champagne. PD is using his favorite, ultraviolet. 3/8 ounce jig head, golden eye jig head, black nickel, one of my favorites. And that's basically what it is. The current is not that strong right now, but it is a beautiful falling tide right now, and this is what you want in the fall. Always remember, springtime, spring, you want incoming, new life. Spring brings new life into the lake. In the fall, it's just the opposite. Falling tide, fall inside of the bridge. The fish will hang out behind the pilings. It's dragging the bait out of the lake. And what happens is the fish congregate behind the pilings, and they're feeding on fin fish and shrimp that's coming past the pilings to ambush it. All right, another one for the box. Population, and I got a boy over here just missing everything. Man, come on. All right, right now we have probably 30, 40 beautiful, 15, 16 inch trout in the boat. And what we're gonna go do now is we're getting ready to go chase the big ones. But that's gonna be another episode.
Make sure to stay up to date with all of our DockSide TV episodes. Simply hit the subscribe button right here on your YouTube channel. Stay up to date with all of the action going on around the surrounding areas as we catch multiple species of fish, from trout to bass to redfish, flounder, and even crappie. Make sure to hit the post notification button also, which will allow you to know when our next and freshest DockSide TV episodes are uploaded.